top of the day to you, to all of our great fans around the country, and especially in Dallas County, because we have a very special person for you today about questions you have been asking about your passport. We want you to please meet the district clerk, the Dallas County district clerk, and she is the effervescent Miss Felicia Petrie. Good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm wonderful. Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for being a part of this special program. Because, may I call you Felicia?
Absolutely.
Felicia, because people want to know about their passports. They're going all over the world. They're going to Barcelona. They're going to see the women play in Australia. And as the district clerk of one of the largest counties in the United States and the Dallas area, which is the ninth largest city in the United States, you have this awesome job of public service. And with Dallas County, you have done a lot to enhance passports. What is it we need to know?
Well, everyone prior to traveling really should check their passport to make certain that it has not expired. So we receive a number of calls saying, oh, my God, I leave in 2 weeks and my passport is expired. What can I do?
Oh, wow.
With the district clerk's office, we are just the processing agency. We do not issue passports. They've seen an increase in travel in 2023 where the U.S. Department of State, they can't keep up because the demand is so high. So it is usually taking up to 13 to 16 weeks to get a passport.
13 to 16 weeks?
Yes. So I encourage everyone to look at your passport, even if you're traveling a year from now. Go on and apply now, so that if the Department of State need additional documents from you, you have enough time to respond and to get your passport in a timely manner.
In a timely manner. I think that's probably the key. For all of you that are listening to this, please call someone. And I am Esther Davis, but we are meeting the Dallas County District Clerk, and she is Felicia Petrie. She's telling you to go ahead and get those passports early, even if you are simply planning to go on a trip. Before I ask her the next question, for the audiences that are listening to us, in 2020, 11.7 million in the United States people applied for passports. That increased a year later to 15.5 million people requesting passports. Felicia, what are we doing about this overload? Because you just mentioned the demand is so high. Are we meeting it, or people just need to be aware?
The Department of State, they're planning, they host passport fairs, which is something that usually with the Department of State, you can't just walk in. You actually have to have an appointment. With the passport fairs, they do allow them to walk in. In my office, because of COVID, we did go to an appointment-only status because we could not accommodate the number of people that would just walk into the office.
Wow.
So it's by appointments. And often I'll get calls from individuals saying, I've been trying to get on for 2 weeks. I can't get an appointment. Can you help me out? So we do. We do try to offer assistance to those individuals that cannot get into the system, and we'll make arrangements for them to come in. So we try to be as accommodating as we possibly can. In this last legislative session, the Texas legislature passed a law where district clerks can sell money orders. The Department of State does not accept cash for their applications. And often people do not have a checking account, so they have to have a money order. So when they get here, they think they can pay by cash or card, and that is not the case. When I was first elected, I attempted to sell money orders, but we could not do it legally. We could not do it. And so now the law has changed, and we will be able to do that. I do plan to implement that the latter part of next year because we have to send out an RFP. So it's a process we have to go through. But I do plan to offer that service through the district clerk passport offices.
Well, I think the most important thing is that people think they can walk into your office and pay cash for a passport.
Yes, and it's amazing the number of people that do come in with cash.
Oh,
So,
now at the post office, at the United States Post Office, what can we do over there? Because is that the same as your office?
no, it's different, and you can purchase a money order at the post office.
Oh,
but,
okay.
Currently here, you can't do it. And something new they started about 2 years ago, the Department of State, we used to could accept renewals here in our office.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if an adult renews their passport, you have to mail it in. Unless you get married or you need to change your name on your passport, you are required to come into the processing center to get that done. But most renewals have to be mailed in.
So your office handles the passport applications and the renewals.
No, renewals only for children, 16 years and younger. All
Okay.
renewals have to be mailed into different processing centers, and they have processing centers all over the United States.
Okay, when you say mailed in, let's say I have a passport, and it has expired, and I want to go somewhere in 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
How do I handle that renewal? I just discovered that my passport has expired.
Although it has expired, you still have to mail it in because they will accept an expired passport up to 15 years, I think. And so you still have to mail it in. But what you can do is actually expedite it and then pay for the overnight mailing fees. And we encourage that because the post office is, it's a little bit unreliable, I'll say that. So in order to make sure,
that's a polite way of putting it, Felicia.
Yeah, so we encourage people, especially if you're on a time crunch, to go on and pay the overnight fees so that you can ensure that you receive your passport on time.
This is such valuable information to all of our audiences everywhere because we are traveling more. Our children are traveling. I have grandchildren overseas going to school, playing ball. And I discovered when I did some research about passports that 43% of Americans have passports. Where are we going with this, Felicia? Why don't we just make it convenient for everybody to move when they want to and require passports? What do you think?
Well,
what are you thinking about that?
I don't set the rules. And so we have guidelines that we have to follow, and the rules are set by the U.S. Department of State. And so we follow the rules and the guidelines. The Department of State recognizes that they have an increase in requests for passports. It is really a good form of identification. So if you lose your driver's license or something, you can always use your passport as a form of identification. I think eventually it may become mandatory that people have passports. It may be in the future, but we see the trend heading that way. So I think it's just good to have as a second form of identification anyway. So when you do plan to travel, you're prepared.
I noticed something when I renewed my passport. There's a chip on the front cover. So I asked what's in the chip because I use it. I use my passport. It's a lot easier to keep up with than the small driver's license.
Right.
What's on that chip? Why did we decide to go, or the Department of State decided to put a chip in the passport?
I'm not certain, and it could be if, I don't know if they're tracking you. I'll be perfectly honest.
That's the first thing people think about,
Absolutely. And so I'm not sure why they put it in there. Technology is changing so much. It's just really amazing. So I'm not sure why they decided to add the chip, to be perfectly honest. One thing we do know, like individuals that live in the state, that especially Hispanic people, who travel across the border back and forth to Mexico, they don't necessarily need a passport book. They do have a passport card that they can use. Now, you can only use the card if you're driving, so that if you're driving across the border. But if you fly, you need a passport book. So we do find that a number of our Hispanic customers, they simply just get the card because they're only traveling across the border. So they'll use the passport card, which is cheaper than the actual passport book.
What are people that want to drive to Mexico to sightsee, for vacation, summer homes? What do they need?
They will need a passport.
They will need a passport.
Mm-hmm.
So it's only people that are actually physically living in, let's say, Mexico, that will have a card to travel back and forth.
Yeah, they can travel back and forth. And what we find is, especially youth, they may go to Mexico for spring break to visit grandparents.
That was going to be my next question, Felicia.
Yeah, and so they just simply get the card because they're not doing other international travel. So they just use the card, go across the border. Or some people may drive to Canada, and they can just use a card simply to go to Canada. Yes.
We're talking to Felicia Petrie. I am Esther Davis, and we are talking about your passport and what the new rules are, and be prepared in advance, because we're being told by the district clerk, the Dallas County district clerk, that even if you're thinking about going on a trip, go ahead and get your passport, because the demand is much higher. And the other important thing that she's telling us is that they don't take cash, and their credit cards get a money order. Her office is going to take a money order. You know, I've noticed on your resume when I go into the website for Dallas County that you're quite a gal, Miss Felicia Petrie. You have implemented a lot of other, let's say, conveniences for your people. You were elected and re-elected, and now you work with the courts. You work with ex-offenders. What all does your office do?
Well, the district court office, it's the custodian of records, and it's the custodian of court documents. So any documents that are filed in a family court, which could be a divorce or a name change or an adoption, those records are filed in my office. If it's a civil case, it could be you're suing a contractor, or you've been in a car accident. Those documents are filed with my office. So I am responsible for civil courts, family courts, juvenile courts, and criminal courts, and in addition, 3 passport offices. And so
passport office. Which one keeps you the busiest? I mean, you were the keeper of the court records for Dallas County. I'm just really curious.
Well, it's interesting because the feel-good part of the job is passports, because we're offering customer service, and a lot of times we're helping people. That's a little stress about the situation. So I have a great team that render good customer service. So passports is the feel-good part of the job.
Okay.
The courts we're extremely busy, and it is just amazing. During COVID, we saw an increase in the number of protective orders, restraining orders, and that's through our family courts and our criminal courts.
Was that domestic violence or domestic altercation?
Yes, domestic violence and divorce. So, yeah, COVID, I guess all the being together made people realize they don't want to be together. But we did see an increased number of divorces that were filed. It is amazing, and most people don't really realize how vast and how broad the courts are. Most people that come to court, the courthouse period, it's very intimidating, and especially if you're a part of a lawsuit. And so I tell my staff, people don't know what they're doing, number one, most often, and they're afraid. So we try to assist as much as possible. I know how I feel when I call an agency and they transfer me here and they transfer me there.
That's right, and they give you a prompt after prompt after prompt.
Yes. Yes. So I encourage my staff to help out, even if it's not our issue. Get the telephone number for the other department, and so it just will make it easier for our customers, for our constituents. So I do believe in providing good public service. After all, we're public servants.
Oh, it's so important to hear you say that. I'm so encouraged when I hear you say that, because you are. That's your entire job, is waiting on the public.
Yes.
And it's important that, and you heard it here with Esther Davis and Felicia Petrie, who is my guest. We're talking about passports, and I have to reiterate, wherever you're going, now is the time to go ahead and apply. Because in her very professional voice, she's telling us that the courts are already backed up. Her office is a demanding place, and you can't just walk in and get a passport. I have to ask you one final question, because I noticed one of your duties, or one of the things you have found interested in, is working tirelessly with ex-offenders in acquiring the Second Chance program. Tell us about that a little, please.
Well, Dallas County was the first county in the state of Texas to host an expunction expo. And an expunction expo, individuals that are eligible to expunge their records, we do that for them. We have volunteer attorneys, our district attorney and his staff. We co-host. And we also incorporated the city of Dallas, because although you may have a criminal history, you may also have issues with the municipal courts. So as a whole, we're able to expunge all those records.
You're able, wait, please repeat that. You're able to expunge all of those records?
But you have to be eligible for it. So if you were charged, if the police charged you with something and the district attorney dismissed the case, that case is eligible to be expunged. So when we looked at it, a lot of people would say, I can't get housing because I have this on my record. I can't get a job. I can't get a certification. So we decided, well, let's try it. And we did, and it was successful, and this will be our 7th year of hosting Expunction Expos. It is free to those that qualify, and the attorneys are free. We have volunteer attorneys, and we process all of this paperwork, and we change lives for individuals.
You certainly are changing lives. I don't think that's a very secret. We're going to make sure that you send something to my office about it, and we'll send it out to our network, which is extensive in the Dallas area.
Yeah.
We're talking to Felicia Petrie. This is Dallas, the Dallas County District Clerk. She's giving us some very valuable information, and I think I don't want to pick out any one piece that she has mentioned, but I cannot get over the passports, and you cannot pay cash. I don't know if we're moving to a cashless society or we're just making it more convenient, but there is no cash for your passport. And just pre-plan your life. So if you're going someplace, go and plan to get your passport early. Well, how can we get in touch with you?
And let me explain about the cash. We actually mail the applications to the processing centers, and so we cannot send cash.
That's right.
So it has to be either check or money order. I'm usually here every day. I take my computer home with me, and so but it's so much work, and I love what I do. So it's a labor of love, to be perfectly honest, because I love what I do. My email address is FeliciaPetrie@DallasCounty.org, and my telephone number is 214-653-7301.
Wow. And I'm going to repeat that, and I'll put it on my website along with DSW BAM, because the information is so valuable. And Ms. Petrie, you have been so informing. I'm delighted to have you here. We will probably call you back as people get ready for the holiday and the Super Bowl and the World Cup all of these things that are happening around the world. I'm Esther Davis. My guest has been Felicia Petrie. This is, and she is, Dallas County District Clerk. I live in Dallas County. I love Dallas County. So we're going to try to get you as much information as we possibly can about how to move through life a lot easier. You want to give us some lasting parting words, Ms. Felicia?
Yes, I want to thank you for having me on. I love to talk about my job, and I love what I do. I want people to hold their elected officials accountable. Whenever someone calls and they go, oh, I can't believe you called me back, or thank you so much for helping me, and I always remind them that's what you elected me to do. And so I want you to hold your elected officials accountable because we are accountable to you. And just know if you need anything and if I can be of assistance, feel free to contact me. If I can't help you, I'll find out who can.
She's outstanding. She's an elected official that cares. She just told us that, and we need to follow her advice and make them accountable. You're wonderful. Thank you so much for being a part of our day.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll talk to you really soon. This is Esther Davis again. I really hope you enjoyed the informative conversation that we had with Felicia Petrie. Dallas County District Clerk, we're talking about a lot of things that they do. Passports is number one. Get those passports early, and remember, they will take your money order. Be happy to take your money orders. She mentioned so many important details. We will have her back. You can reach her very easily. She gave us the email, Felicia Petrie at dallascounty.org. I'm Esther Davis. I'm Esther Davis, and you are the greatest audience in the world. We'll see you next time.